Welcome to Creepytalks, where hidden fears come alive through chilling horror tales. Dare to listen as every story pulls you deeper into the darkness. Story 1. The apartment above Mira had been living alone for about 8 months when she first heard the footsteps. Her apartment was on the top floor of the building, Unit 4D, the highest unit of a modest 4-story block, with thin walls and perpetually flickering hallway lights. When she signed her lease, the landlord had told her proudly, "At least you'll never have noisy neighbors above you." That made the nightly footsteps all the more unnerving. The first time it happened, Mira was sitting on her couch, scrolling through her phone, when she heard slow, dragging footsteps above her ceiling. She froze. It was unmistakable. The heavy thump of someone walking heel first, then sliding a little, as though their feet weighed too much. At first she tried to rationalize it. Maybe the sound was echoing from the hallway, or maybe one of the pipes made strange noises. Old buildings did that sometimes, but as the weeks passed, the footsteps became more consistent. Every night, usually around 2 or 3 a.m., Mira heard them, slow pacing from one end of the ceiling to the other. The worst part, she could track where they were. They always stayed in the same path. A long walk from the corner above her bedroom, across her living room ceiling, back and forth, over and over. Sometimes the steps paused right over where she lay in bed. Sometimes she thought she heard breathing. When she mentioned it to her landlord, he chuckled. "There's no apartment above you," he reminded her. "Only the roof and the maintenance crawl space." "Could someone be up there?" she asked. "No way. There's barely space to stand up. And it's locked. Only I have a key." But the next night the footsteps returned. She tried to ignore it, wore headphones, played music, kept the TV on as she slept. But nothing drowned out the distinct sound of someone pacing. One night, after a particularly rough shift at work, Mira couldn't handle it anymore. At 2:14 a.m., when the footsteps started, she snapped. She grabbed her broom, marched into her living room, and slammed the handle against the ceiling. "Shut up!" she yelled. For the first time, the footsteps stopped. There was silence, so complete and sudden that it felt unnatural. Mira stared upward, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. Maybe she had scared whoever or whatever it was. Then slowly, deliberately, 3 loud thumps came from directly overhead. Not walking, not pacing, not dragging, just bang, bang, bang. Something hitting the floor above her, hard. Her broom dropped from her hands. The next morning she went straight to the landlord's office. "I need you to check the crawl space." He crossed his arms. "No one is up there. I told you. I heard something. Something is walking around up there." He sighed but finally agreed. They climbed the stairwell to the 4th floor landing. He unlocked the metal grate leading to the maintenance crawl space. A stale burst of dusty air blew out. Mira held her breath as he flicked on the light. The space was narrow, just a cramped stretch of wooden beams, insulation, and piping. No real flooring, only planks laid down for maintenance. "No one's been up here in months," he said, shining a flashlight around. But Mira wasn't listening because she saw something in the dust. Footprints, dozens of them. Human footprints, long and narrow, pressed into the thick layer of dust that coated the wooden planks. They formed a clear path from the area above her bedroom, across the beams, back and forth, exactly where she heard the footsteps every night. Her heart dropped. Those weren't here before," the landlord muttered, confused. I locked this door. No one has access." He backed out, pale. "Maybe it's raccoons," he offered weakly. Despite the obvious human shape of the prints, Mira didn't sleep that night, nor the night after. The footsteps didn't return, not for a few days. But on the fourth night, around 3 a.m., she woke to a new sound, not footsteps, not pacing. This time it was a soft, rhythmic tapping, like someone using their fingernails against a wooden surface. Tap, tap, tap. Then she realized the sound wasn't coming from the ceiling. It was coming from inside her bedroom closet. She stared at the closed door, her breath catching in her throat. She couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't look away. The tapping grew louder, faster. Then it stopped. A soft voice whispered from behind the closet door. "Found a way down." By the time the police arrived, whatever or whoever had been in the closet was gone. The crawl space entrance had been forced open from the inside. The lock snapped clean off. Mira moved out the next morning. And to this day, the landlord swears he has no idea who had been living above her ceiling. But someone had, and they had been watching her for months. Story 2. The Lost Hiker's Phone. It was early winter when park rangers found the phone. A bright red iPhone lying face down near the edge of the ravine in Pine Creek National Forest. The case was cracked, the battery at 2%. The rangers assumed it belonged to the missing hiker, Daniel Rowe, a 31-year-old school teacher who had vanished 2 weeks prior. A massive search had been conducted. Hundreds of volunteers, dogs, drones. No sign of him, until the phone showed up. They turned it on, hoping to find clues. There were 13 videos recorded on the phone. The first 10 showed normal hiking clips, trees, the river, Daniel talking cheerfully to the camera about trails and wildlife. The last 3 videos were different. They were recorded on the night he disappeared. Video 1, 11:32 p.m. The camera shakes violently as Daniel runs through the forest in the dark. His flashlight beam jerks wildly. He's breathing hard, panicked. "They won't talk to me anymore," he whispers. "The voices won't answer." He turns the camera toward his face. He's sweating despite the cold. I think I'm going in circles." In the background faintly, something snaps. A branch. Footsteps. Daniel freezes. "Hello?" He calls out, voice cracking. No answer. He turns the flashlight toward the trees. The video cuts abruptly. Video 2, 12:04 a.m. Daniel is sitting against a tree, talking quietly into the camera. "I don't know how long I've been out here," he murmurs. "My phone says midnight, but I swear the sun should have come up by now." He's trembling violently. "There's someone out here with me." He glances over his shoulder. "I saw them standing between the trees, not moving, just watching." Another snap of a twig from somewhere behind the camera. Daniel flinches. "I'm not alone," he whispers. The video ends with a short gasp. Video 3, 12:28 a.m. The final video is only 4 minutes long. The phone is on the ground, the camera pointed upward toward the treetops. The flashlight is dying, leaving everything dim and grainy. Daniel is sobbing softly. "Please," he whispers, "please stop." There's no wind, no movement, just silence. He continues speaking, but his voice grows distant, like he's backing away. "I did what you asked," he says. "I followed the markers. I didn't take anything. Please." A new sound enters the audio. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. But they don't sound like human footsteps. They're too uneven, like something dragging one leg. Daniel's breathing grows frantic. "Stay away from me," he cries. "Please, just tell me what you want." The footsteps get closer. Daniel screams. The phone is knocked over. The screen blurs. Leaves scatter. Then Daniel's voice is abruptly cut off. A moment later, something steps into the frame, but only the bottom corner of it is visible. A pale, bare foot smeared with dirt. The toes are too long. The arch bends unnaturally, as though the bones inside are broken or rearranged. The foot lingers in the frame for 5 long seconds. Then the video ends. The investigation police and rangers reviewed the videos, searching the forest for any sign of the figure. They found no tracks, no evidence of another person. The coroner eventually declared Daniel's death as likely due to hypothermia after becoming lost. His family was told that panic and disorientation probably caused hallucinations, but one ranger disagreed. When he first reviewed the last video, he noticed something the others didn't. At the very end, just one frame before the video cuts, he saw something reflected in the phone's cracked screen. A face, not Daniel's. A pale, expressionless face inches behind him, eyes wide and unblinking, staring directly into the camera. The ranger quit his job the next day. He still won't talk about what he saw in that reflection. Story 3. The House Call Nurse. Ella Ramirez had been a home care nurse for nearly 14 years, but she had never experienced anything as unsettling as the Cooper case. Mr. and Mrs. Cooper were an elderly couple in their late 70s, living in a quiet rural area about 20 minutes outside the city. The husband was recovering from hip surgery. The wife had early-stage dementia. Ella was assigned to check on them twice a week. The first few visits were normal: medicine reviews, wound care, blood pressure checks. Mrs. Cooper was forgetful but cheerful. Mr. Cooper was polite and grateful. But on Ella's 5th visit, things began to change. The warning. It started when Mrs. Cooper pulled Ella aside while her husband was in the bathroom. "He isn't my husband," the old woman whispered, gripping Ella's wrist tightly. "That man in our house, he looks like him, but he's not him." Ella tried to reassure her gently. "Sometimes memory issues can make people feel..." "No." The woman's eyes were wide and terrified. "You don't understand. He sleeps differently. He breathes differently. His voice, it's wrong." Ella assumed it was worsening dementia, but then she noticed something strange. Mr. Cooper's voice actually did sound odd, raspier, lower, like he had a sore throat, and his movements seemed stiff, unnatural. Still, recovery from hip surgery could explain that. She made a note in her file and left. The second morning. 2 days later, during her next visit, Mrs. Cooper refused to leave her bedroom. "He watches me at night," she whispered through the cracked door. "He stands at the foot of my bed. He thinks I'm asleep, but I'm not." Ella felt a chill. "Have you told your sons about this?" she asked. Mrs. Cooper shook her head. "He won't let me use the phone. He says I get confused." Ella found Mr. Cooper in the kitchen, silently staring out the window. When she greeted him, he didn't respond, just kept staring. It wasn't like him, at all. The call 3 nights later, Ella received a call from an unknown number. When she answered, she heard Mrs. Cooper's panicked whisper, "Please come. He's not sleeping anymore." Then the line went dead. Ella grabbed her bag and drove out immediately. She arrived at the house around 11:40 p.m. The lights were off. The front door was slightly open. Inside, the house was pitch black. "Mrs. Cooper?" Ella whispered. "It's me, Ella." No answer. She flicked on her phone's flashlight and stepped into the living room. Something was wrong. The furniture was shifted, a vase smashed. Mr. Cooper's walker lay overturned. Ella's heart pounded. "Mrs. Cooper!" She heard a faint noise, a soft creak. From the hallway, Ella followed it slowly. The hallway was dark except for a sliver of moonlight coming from a partially open bedroom door. Mrs. Cooper's room, Ella pushed it open. "Ma'am, are you?" She froze. Mrs. Cooper was sitting upright in bed, eyes wide in terror, staring at the corner of the room. "He's not my husband," she whispered again, her voice trembling. "He came into the house 2 weeks ago. He just walked in, and he never left." Ella swallowed hard. "Where is he now?" Mrs. Cooper raised a shaking hand and pointed toward the closet. Ella turned toward the closed closet door. Something shifted inside slow, heavy, deliberate. Ella stepped back, heart hammering. "Mrs. Cooper, we need to leave." The closet door creaked open. Mr. Cooper stepped out. Or rather, someone who looked like Mr. Cooper. Ella immediately understood what the old woman meant. His posture was wrong, shoulders too stiff, arms hanging too low. His face seemed slack, expressionless, like someone trying to mimic a human smile but getting it slightly wrong. His eyes didn't blink. He moved toward them in slow, jerking motions. "Mr. Cooper?" Ella managed. The figure tilted its head unnaturally far to the side. Then it spoke. But the voice wasn't human. It was a deep, guttural rasp, as if forcing sound through vocal cords that didn't belong to it. "Not your concern." Ella grabbed Mrs. Cooper's arm. "We're leaving. Now." The figure lunged. Ella shoved Mrs. Cooper toward the hallway. The two women stumbled out of the room as the figure hit the door frame, knocking splinters loose. Ella didn't look back. They ran into the night and made it to the neighbor's house, where police were called. The aftermath. When officers entered the Cooper house, they found no one inside. The house was torn apart, furniture broken, closets emptied, windows shattered from the inside. But Mr. Cooper was never found. Not alive, not dead. Missing. However, they did find something else. A dark stain on the living room floor. DNA analysis confirmed it belonged to Mr. Cooper, weeks old, meaning the real Mr. Cooper had been dead long before the thing in the house ever spoke to Ella. Story 4. The Tenant in Room 209. The hotel wasn't fancy, just a small 3-story building off the highway, the kind of place where travelers stayed one night and never thought about again. But Sonia, who worked the night shift at the front desk, liked it. It was quiet, predictable, until room 209. It started on a Thursday. At 1:13 a.m., the phone at the front desk rang. "Front desk," Sonia answered. A long silence, then a raspy whisper. "Can you send someone up? Someone's in my room." Sonia checked the computer. Room 209 wasn't occupied. "Sir, I think you have the wrong number," she said gently. "No one is staying in that room." Another whisper. "He's in the bathroom. I can hear him breathing." Sonia's skin crawled. "Sir, where are you calling from?" The line went dead. She called security. The guard, Tom, went up to check 209. He reported back 5 minutes later. "Nobody inside," he said. Door was locked from the outside. All lights off. Nothing touched. Sonia tried to shake it off, but 20 minutes later, the phone rang again. Room 209. She stared at the screen. Her stomach tightened. She picked up slowly. "Front desk." This time, no whispering, just breathing. Low, shaky, terrified breathing. "Sir? Hello?" The breathing suddenly stopped. Then a soft voice said, "He got out." The phone clicked off. Tom ran upstairs again. Same report. Room empty, door locked, no signs of entry. Sonia didn't sleep when she went home the next morning. The next night was worse. At almost the exact same time, 1:12 a.m., room 209 rang again. Sonia hesitated before answering. "Front desk." No sound. "Hello?" Then the whisper, "Please help me. He's in the room again." Sonia felt her blood run cold. "Who is in the room? What is your name?" But the line was filled with static. Then, "He's coming out of the wall." Click. Sonia covered her mouth with her hand. Tom checked the room again, angrily this time, insisting someone must be messing with them. He walked into 209, turned the lights on, and froze Sonia, he said quietly over the radio. Come up here. She ran. When she entered the room, she felt instantly sick. On the bathroom mirror were smeared streaks, as if someone had dragged wet fingers down from top to bottom. But when Sonia touched the glass, it was dry and cold. The streaks were on the inside of the mirror, as if someone were touching it from behind. Tom left, swearing under his breath. Sonia refused to enter 209 again. Night 3. The manager, Mr. Lyle, insisted the phones were malfunctioning. Old wiring, he said. Room phones can ring the front desk even if no one picks up. So Sonia worked again, but she kept her eyes on the screen, dreading the moment. And it came 1:11 a.m., room 209. She answered with trembling hands. Front desk. A man sobbed quietly on the line. He won't let me leave. Sonia's voice cracked. Where are you? In the wall, the voice whispered. He put me here. Sonia dropped the phone. Tom ran upstairs one last time. This time, when he entered room 209, he found something, a suitcase. Old, scuffed, covered in dust. It sat in the center of the room. There was a name tag attached. Michael Harper, check-in date, February 14th, 1997. That was 26 years ago. The hotel had no digital records from that time. Mr. Lyle didn't even work there yet. Tom opened the suitcase. Inside were clothes from the 1990s, a toothbrush, a cracked shaving mirror, and at the bottom, a hotel room key for room 209. Handwritten on a scrap of paper inside the suitcase was a single sentence. Don't let him out. The final night, Sonia didn't want to work anymore, but quitting felt wrong. She wanted answers. On her fourth night, she asked Tom to sit with her at the front desk. At 1:10 a.m., her heart started pounding. At 1:11, she froze. At 1:12, the phone rang. Room 209. Tom answered this time. Who is this? He demanded. The voice was barely audible. Please, don't let him. The line went silent. Then behind them, the elevator dinged. Tom stood. The elevator doors slid open. Nobody was inside, but wet footprints, the shape of bare feet, began appearing on the lobby carpet, one after another, moving toward them. Tom backed away. Sonia screamed. The footprints stopped right in front of the desk, then disappeared. The phone rang again. Room 209. Sonia couldn't breathe. Tom picked up with shaking hands. A whisper. He's not in the wall anymore. That was the last phone call. Aftermath room 209 was permanently sealed. Construction crews were hired to tear out the walls. Inside the space between two support beams, they found something. A human skeleton. Trapped upright, hands raised. Fingertips worn down to bone. Medical examiners estimated the remains were over 25 years old. Likely belonging to Michael Harper, who checked in all those years ago and never checked out. What no one could explain was how his voice kept calling over the phone, or who, or what had trapped him in the wall to begin with. Story 5. The Babysitter's Last Visit. Everyone in the neighborhood knew Emily Carter, responsible, polite, straight A student. She babysat for almost every family on the block, but her last babysitting job was nothing like the others. It was supposed to be simple. Watch 6-year-old Lily Parker while her parents went to a late dinner. Emily arrived at 8 p.m., cheerful as always. The Parkers left. Everything seemed normal. Until 9:17 p.m. Strange noises. Emily sat on the couch doing homework when she heard it. A soft scraping sound from upstairs. She paused, listening. Scrape, scrape, scrape. She assumed Lily was playing with toys. "Lily," she called. "Everything okay?" No answer. She went upstairs. Lily's door was open. The girl sat on her bed reading picture books. "Sweetie, were you dragging something?" Lily looked up, confused. "No, I'm just reading." The sound happened again. Scrape. But this time it came from the guest bedroom. Emily felt uneasy. She opened the door. Pitch black. She flicked the light switch. Nothing inside. Empty bed. Clean floor. No toys. She went back downstairs. The dresser. At 9:40 the noise returned. Louder scrape. 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 Emily grabbed her phone flashlight and marched upstairs. The sound came from inside the guest bedroom again. She turned the knob and opened the door. The tall wooden dresser that stood against the wall earlier was now on the opposite side of the room. It hadn't fallen, wasn't damaged. It had been moved, dragged across the carpet. "Lily?" Emily whispered. The little girl appeared behind her, rubbing her eyes. "Emily, why are you up here? Did you move this dresser?" Lily shook her head. "It's too heavy." They both stared at the dresser. Then the bottom drawer slid open an inch, on its own. Emily slammed the door shut, grabbed Lily, and went downstairs. Her hands were shaking. She called Mrs. Parker. Voicemail. She decided not to panic. Kids' imaginations could make things seem worse, but she kept all the lights on the man outside. At 10:12 p.m., Emily heard tapping at the living room window. Tap, tap, tap. She froze. The window faced the backyard, a fenced private area. Emily grabbed her phone, turned on the flashlight, and aimed it at the window. A man stood outside, tall, wearing dark clothes. No expression, just staring in. Emily screamed and pulled Lily behind her. The man didn't react, didn't move, didn't blink. She called 911. The operator said police were on the way. Emily kept the flashlight on the man, but he was gone. Just gone. Not running, not walking away. One moment he was there. The next, empty backyard. Emily locked every door and window, pulled curtains shut, stayed on the phone with the operator until police arrived. Officers searched the property, found nothing, no footprints, no signs of entry. They told Emily to stay calm, that it was probably a prankster. She didn't believe that for a second. The closet. When the officers left, the house fell into a heavy silence. Emily put Lily to bed again and sat outside the room, determined not to let anything else happen. At 11:26 p.m., she heard a click, a door latch, slow, careful. She turned toward the sound. It came from the hallway, the guest bedroom closet. She stood. The closet door was now open a few inches. Emily stepped closer, heart racing. "Is someone in there?" she whispered. Silence. She reached out and pushed the door open. Nothing inside, just coats, shoes. And then she noticed something on the carpet, a footprint, small, child-sized, but not Lily's. This footprint had no toes, no heel. It was shaped wrong, more like the outline of a flattened shoe sole. Emily shut the closet and hurried downstairs again. 12:03 a.m. Emily was counting the minutes until the Parkers came home when she heard a soft voice behind her. "Emily!" She spun around. Lily stood at the bottom of the stairs, pale and shaking. "There's someone upstairs," the girl whispered. "In the hallway." Emily grabbed her, pulling her close. "I heard him breathing," Lily said, tears streaming. "He was standing outside my door." Emily called 911 again. While waiting for the operator, she heard it too. A slow, raspy breath. Coming from the top of the stairs, Emily looked up. A figure stood there. Not a ghost, not a shadow. A man. The same man who had been outside the window. Only now he was inside the house. Emily screamed and ran with Lily to the kitchen, locking the door. She grabbed a knife and held Lily close. The man walked down the stairs slowly, deliberately, each step creaking. No rush, no fear. He tried the kitchen door, turned the knob, tried again. Emily held the knife, shaking violently. The man whispered through the door crack. "I've been hiding here a long time." Lily buried her face into Emily's chest. The police sirens finally sounded outside. The man stopped. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, a heavy thud upstairs. Another. Then footsteps running. Fast. Police burst in minutes later. They found signs of forced entry in the attic. Dust disturbed. Footprints. Candy wrappers. A makeshift sleeping area behind insulation. Someone had been secretly living in the Parkers' attic for over a month. They never found him. Emily never babysat again. Story 6. The train that didn't stop it was 2:18 a.m. when the security officer, Mark Whitaker, saw the train approaching. He worked the night shift at Reading Junction, a small, mostly abandoned railway stop outside town. Only 2 freight trains passed through at night, and both were scheduled. But this one wasn't. Mark stared down the tracks as a dark locomotive emerged from the fog, lights dim, engine humming quietly. No identification number, no scheduled arrival, no radio communication, just a slow-moving train rolling silently into the station. Mark picked up his walkie. "Dispatch, this is Junction 7, unsigned freight approaching. Do we have a route for it?" Static. He tried again. "Dispatch, confirm unscheduled train on track A." Nothing. The train glided in without slowing. Mark grabbed his flashlight and stepped forward, holding up his hand. "Engineer, you're entering an unscheduled stop. Identify yourself." No response. He shined the flashlight into the cabin. Empty. No driver. No one at all. But the engine was running. The wheels turned. The gauges inside the cabin moved. Mark felt a chill. He walked along the side of the train. The windows of the freight cars were pitch black. He tried one of the side doors. It slid open. The car was empty. Completely empty. Not a single crate. Not a single piece of equipment. But the floor was dirty, as if something had been dragged. Large, heavy marks scraped across the metal. Mark backed away. He didn't like this. Not one bit. The recording protocol required him to take photos of any unscheduled train. He pulled out his phone. That's when he noticed something odd. His phone's timestamp froze at 2:19 a.m. The seconds stopped counting. He frowned and tried turning the phone off. It wouldn't power down. He raised his walkie radio again. "Dispatch, I need immediate." A voice crackled through. But it wasn't dispatch. It was a whisper. "You should not be here." Mark froze. "Who is this?" he demanded. Silence, then, "Do not open the last car." The radio went dead. Mark stared at the far end of the train, where the final freight car sat motionless. He felt a strange pull, instinct telling him not to go near it, but protocol demanded he check every car. He walked slowly toward the last car. With each step, the station seemed quieter. The fog grew thicker, the air heavier. By the time he reached the final car, the hair on his arm stood straight. The door was slightly open, just a crack. Something dripped from the bottom, dark, smeared streaks. Mark raised his flashlight, swallowing hard. "Dispatch, please respond." Nothing. He slid the door open another inch. Something moved inside. Something large, shifting, sliding. Mark stepped back, heart hammering. A shape pressed weakly against the inside wall of the car, shrouded in darkness, but definitely human-sized. A voice, hoarse, trembling, spoke from inside. "Help! Help me!" Mark's breath caught. "Sir, are you injured? I'm going to get help." "No!" The voice grew sharper, desperate. "Do not open the door." Mark was confused. You just asked for help." "No!" the voice screamed. "He's still inside." Mark turned to run, but the train lurched forward. Slow at first, then faster. Mark chased after it. "Stop! Stop the train!" But it accelerated, rolling into the fog, disappearing as suddenly as it had arrived. Mark stood alone on the platform, shaking. His radio crackled again. A new voice. Female. Calm. "Junction 7, this is dispatch. We see no train on your track. Is everything okay?" Mark stared into the fog. "But there was a train. It just left." Silence. Then, "Sir, track A has been empty for over an hour." His blood turned cold. "What time is it?" he asked. 3:04 a.m., dispatch said. Mark nearly dropped the radio. 3 o'clock. He'd lost almost 45 minutes. He walked the tracks with his flashlight. No footprints. No wheel marks. No disturbed gravel. As if the train had never been there. 3 weeks later, a package arrived for the station. No return address. Inside was a single item, a torn piece of metal plate, the kind used for labeling freight cars. Stamped into it were the faded numbers. Car 87. Do not open. Mark quit his job the next day. He still dreams of the voice inside that last car, begging him not to open it, and the whisper on the radio telling him, "You should not be here."